What's up YouTube? MX versus SBK here. Gonna be doing a review today on my 2016 BMW S1000RR. So where to begin? The genesis of the S1000RR. Technically this bike came onto the scene in 2009, but really 2010. There were so few units in 09. To say this bike upset the superbike class it's quite an understatement. It had about 35 horsepower on the next closest bike in the class at the time. Numbers like that in the 1000 class were just absolutely unheard of and insane. This thing was faster than a Hayabusa when it came out, and just the sheer sophistication was just on another level. The fact it came with traction control standard is just unreal. The only superbike before to have TC was the ultra exclusive Ducati 1098R, which obviously very few people could even get their hands on. The S1000 came with its standard. It had power, it had electronics, it had poise, it had handling, and it really just came out of left field, to be honest. BMW had been building motorcycles for a very long time and had a few sporty bikes. The closest thing they had to a super bike was the HP2 Sport, and that was based off of the venerable R1200S street bike, and it was a great bike, but a boxer twin over 500 pounds, very limited in cornering clearance, it wasn't going to cut it. And BMW engineers got to work on taking on the superbike class, and that's where we get the S1000RR from. This bike was built to compete in World Superbike and the highest levels of road racing. It did very well for itself, but as it turns out, the real party trick of this bike was being a monster on the street. You had everything. You have all the power, all the sophistication, the electronics, and despite being a super bike, it's actually quite comfortable. Let's talk about this individual bike. So this is a 2016. It's the third generation of the S1000RR. I got this one in early 2017, and it was a perfect find. It's fully loaded. It's the premium package and the tricolor, and I really wanted this more than the 17. The 2017 gained weight. It had to comply with Euro 4 regulations. It was just a weighted down bike with the same basic faculties. This one, the third generation, came out in 2015. Lost about 9 pounds on the 2014 model. It also gained about 6 horsepower, bringing its claim up to 199 horse. And that's an interesting number because the Germans are notorious for underrating horsepower. I mean, look at a 911 Turbo S, for example. Other bikes in the class will claim 200, like the 15 and 16 R1 did. But when it came to dyno day, they really didn't have an answer for the S1000 being down as much as 15 horsepower on it. This bike is a 12-to-1 compression ratio, dual overhead cam, fuel injected inline 4-cylinder. And it's amazing. It's a monster. It is a freaking beast. This bike has several features, as standard being the premium package. The first and obvious is the dynamic dampening control. Oh, covering the mic there. Electronic suspension. That was borrowed off the 2014 HP4, which was the high performance variant of the standard S1000RR. We also get combined braking. We have Ride Modes Pro, which includes slick mode when you really want to get nasty out there. We have cruise control, which, how many super bikes can you think of that would come with cruise control? This bike started that fad. It had it back early on when, I mean, it's unheard of. And then the piece de la resistance, we have heated grips. Heated grips on a super bike. I mean, who thinks of stuff like that? BMW thinks of stuff like that. We also have Shift Assist Pro, so we can do full throttle clutchless upshifting to really knock our times down. And then my favorite, the auto blipper downshifter. Just let off the throttle, just do. It's amazingly helpful when you're pushing deep into turns. The other option this bike came with is the forged aluminum wheel option with a 200 rear section tire. They're incredibly lightweight and stiff. Feel amazing. I've opted to run the Pirelli Diablo Rosso courses instead of the Super Corsa SP that came standard, because you get a harder center compound, tire lasts longer, it heats up faster, and the grip is still amazing. I mean, you would be doing very, very well to push past these limits. They're a little cheaper as well, and I'm getting about 16 to 1800 miles out of tires, so they seem to be a great fit. Again, this is the Tricolor Motorsports Edition, so part of that package is eliminating the pillion seat as well as the passenger pegs. Very nice little additions, just a bit of a racier look. Quickly, while we're still talking specs, I'll go over my upgrades. So upgraded the front brake pads to EBC double centered pads just for a little bit more extreme grip, which the S1000 didn't need it, but I say no such thing as too much brakes. Also have some tech spec tank grips. These help a lot when you're trying to hold on to this monster rocket as it's exploding out of every apex. You can't see it, but I do have a lithium-ion battery here under the seat, and that saves about 9 pounds. 9 pounds for about $150. I hardly think you could find a better deal than that. And then the significant upgrade, an SC Project S1 Superbike exhaust. Titanium, carbon fiber, just sounds amazing. Accentuates the bike's natural, pleasing tone with a bit more bass in it. And the wonderful pops and crackles that this generation made when you let off the throttle, it just takes them to a whole nother level. And definitely I'll let you guys hear the sound of this machine when we get done with the review. Moving on to just the general riding experience. This bike is dominated by the engine. It's so much power. When you put this thing into race mode and you rev past 12,000 RPM, you see plaid. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. I've ridden other fast bikes. I've been in fast cars. I've never felt the fluid on my eyeballs rolling into the back. I've never had my face distorted from G-force before. But what's so eerie about this bike, what's so amazing about it, and where the claims that it lacks character comes from, is how well it does it and how seamlessly it does it. This bike is easier for me to put into a corner at full force than a Yamaha R6. This bike is so flickable and agile, especially after these two modifications, dropping the weight from the original 450 pounds fully fueled. I've taken about 13 pounds out. I would guesstimate this SC has at least removed 3 pounds off the stock muffler. We've got about 10 pounds out with the battery. So we're looking at a curb weight now of about 437 pounds. The handling's extreme, the composure. It just feels so solid. Some of you that have driven high-level sports cars will know what I mean by solid. You don't feel the suspension moving around and some play in the drivetrain and the transmission separate. It's just this seamless bike. This crowning jewel of the superbike class was built from science and a passion for engineering. It's so Germanic in all the best ways. The equivalent cars I would put this to would be a 911 GT3 RS. There's flashier cars, there's more expensive supercars, but if you're serious about going fast, you really can't find anything better. Even superbike class today, this bike still stands as tall as it possibly can. And it's so reasonable to ride. It's a superbike, it's got aggressive ergonomics, but it's actually pretty comfortable. And when you add in heated grips and cruise control and a quick shifter and a blipper, you can actually go touring on this bike.